an idea or concept to help understand what are blind spots when we're going through ascension or healing, your healing journey, and you find yourself maybe stuck or blocked um, in certain patterns, in certain cycles, or perhaps even trying to shift energy or behavior, or even a limiting belief. Usually, blind spots represent a limiting belief, something that we um, see in a different light that perhaps limit how you perceive your reality. And I hadn't experienced this past few days, which it only just came to me today actually, how it was part of, it can be used as a metaphor to help us understand what blind spot is. And I'm going to share this. I'm going to share because I think it has helped me, so hopefully it will help you. So my family and I were walking in around the lake, a reservoir, forest, animals, really beautiful. And we noticed quite a, a big flock of Canadian geese. And we were observing and watching them, and asking questions. My boy was asking questions, so we went on search, web search, to get answers, to try to um just keep it engaging, and everything else. So we found out a few facts about geese, and how they migrate, and how they migrated to England, but also at least over the ocean, which is at least 7 to 10,000 miles. So we're looking at how long they fly in one fly, and calculated the speed that they were flying, and how many hours would that be. And that those calculations came down to about 10 hours of flight. And we're thinking, well, that doesn't cover the whole distance of the ocean space that they have to travel. And and we just left it to it and kept going around the lake. And then we got to the end, my partner, my husband, and I were like, but wait a minute, but they can land on water. So, after so many hours fly, they would land on water and whatever, recharge and restart again until they finished the migration, until they finished the trip. And we're laughing so hard because, we're watching them in water, but we're not associated the landing on sea as their habitat, right? We see geese in lakes, rivers, streams, ponds, but in ocean, it's not something that we don't see it very often. So we didn't associate. So therefore, was the question a limiting question? Yeah, we had a limiting belief that, well, how they would run across the whole ocean if, um, you know, they don't go in ocean. So, well, would they land in ocean and stay in ocean for a few hours before they go on again? And that was the limiting belief, because we didn't associate. Sometimes limiting beliefs can come from a type of association that we do from a level of upbringing that we had, or an understanding that we had how something's supposed to happen. And that is a blind spot. So our blind spot right there was this, not associating the geese landing in ocean, even though they have to cross over the ocean. And that's a classical example of blind spot. When you come back to it, when you come back to your own questions, well, where would they land, right? That was a question. That's a question that is trying to expand that limiting understanding that you had, that association that you had about certain beliefs, that then breaks open for you to be able to see this blind spot. And then we got into this blind spot, and when you think about it, you kind of expand your whole idea of how migration of birds happen, right? You can get more of an insight of how migration happens. And we'd have made a joke, they'd probably land and get eaten by seals or sharks, so probably not the whole flock arrives at their destination. And, you know, so when we are into that blind spot and we get this realization, it breaks down limiting belief. It's that aha moment that you realize, wait a minute, this is how I was thinking, but this is another way that I can also think about this same situation. And in my Patreon community, when we are sharing, we're talking, and stories are coming up, and certain patterns are being picked up as being very similar through different stories, I always bring the concept or the expansion. Perhaps we are going through the same thing, but how can we see it differently? And seeing differently is perhaps coming from this limiting belief, an association that we did, or a coping mechanism that is in the way still, a defensive coping mechanism that is still in the way of you experiencing that reality in a different way, so that it can expand your consciousness, it can expand how you see that reality, beyond of what we are used to, or of what we understand from our upbringing core, rather than our soul expanded core, because they're two different things. We have our own wisdom, we have our own knowledge, our knowingness, our intuition, and that's our soul core expansion. But we also have our limiting beliefs and coping mechanisms that, upbringing, where it does limit this expansion. So I just thought to share about blind spot in a story, just to represent the metaphor, just to help understand. And I hope this has been helpful, and I would love to see you at the Patreon community, where we are constantly but organically expanding our minds and trying to change our reality to a better reality, to a more at ease, with love, at peace reality. Thank you.